My friends, it is Wednesday, and that means it's Ask a Flower Farmer, and couldn't be inside. It's just far too beautiful of a day. So we are going to do Ask a Flower Farmer right out here. I'm at the farm, and it's just, we had pounding rain last night, and everything that's still standing anyway is totally refreshed, and it's just a really beautiful day. Bobo and Lucy have been harvesting flowers all morning, and they're now picking figs. I'm baking a fig cobbler for dinner tonight, y'all. And I am just happy to be here with you guys today. So, if you're new here and you've never attended Ask a Flower Farmer, if you have a question about grow and cut flowers, anything, seed starting, cool flowers, whatever, post it in the bubble down below with the question mark in it. That way I won't miss your question with all the names flying by, right? So post your questions down in the bubble with the question mark, and I will do my best to answer some of those. So let's see what's happening. So we have made way back there. That garden is on its way to being pre-planned for cool flowers. Friends, I hope you're tonight I'm doing a live right here on IG at 8 p.m. Don't miss the boat on cool flowers. And I will be chit-chatting tonight about all the reasons that you should grow cool flowers and kind of why we don't. We just kind of have missed the boat, literally. A lot of people have. And it's because of they're kind of quirky. They're not really hard. They're just different. And you know what happens when things are different. People just go the other way, right? So join me tonight at 8 p.m. And also, if you want to check out, we have a special offer. I have created an amazing bonus training to go along with our Cool Flower course, Cool Flowers from Seed to Harvest. It's called Mastering Cool Flowers, Expert Tips and Techniques. And that offer ends tonight, which of course I'll be talking about tonight in the live too. But you can comment cool here and it'll take you right over there to the sales page. On that sales page, you can watch a little trailer at the top, the welcome kind of. And at the bottom of the page, you can actually request a sneak peek. You can actually get the Rudbeckia session from the course to get a taste of that is one of 36. And it's just an amazing course. I just can't even tell y'all. But that special offer of this bonus training that I've made, oh my gosh, y'all. It's why and how I do pathways, what kind of mulch I use for cool flowers, and how that all works. Weed prevention. Nobody was more surprised than me when I started growing cool flowers 27 years ago, how many weeds grow in the winter. I mean, I just wasn't prepared for that. Anyway, and there's videos in there of me building a low tunnel using lightweight row cover, and also a double row cover, how and why you would do that, as well as I show you a video of installing what I call a sun cap. That's how I shade my cool flowers when fall is just hot and hot and hot. As well as, y'all, at the end of that bonus that comes with the course, I have done drawings of my farm going through 4 seasons of how I integrate warm and cool annuals, how to fill that up for your whole year. So anyway, so after tonight at midnight, that offer won't, that bonus will no longer be available with the course. So comment cool if you want to check that out, and it's really a lot of fun. So now we have some questions down here. So let's take a look-see. Julie asks, is it worth starting zinnias as seed today in the ground in a hot, dry climate for a wedding September 14th? Do you think I would have usable blooms in time? So first off, in my experience, I get plants quicker starting indoors than out. We don't direct seed anything outdoors in the spring and summer. So I can't really comment on that part, but you just need to look up what the variety of zinnia you have online and see what is the days to bloom. So I'm thinking, this is from memory, I would have to look, but I'm thinking that Benary's giant zinnias are 90 days from seed to bloom. So that's 3 months. And so you have to figure out for which variety you have, how long that is. So what is this? That's August. So you would not have blooms in time, starting seed now, potentially. So sometimes stuff goes faster, but I'd have a great backup plan, right? So good luck with that. If I start cool flowers inside in the fall, do I transplant into the ground?
75 to 90 days.
Bobo said that Benary's Giant says 75 to 90 days. So, but whatever variety you have, you need to look that up. It varies from variety to variety. When do I transplant into the ground? I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. So, first off, if you haven't read the Cool Flower book, that's my book that was actually published 10 years ago, which is the bare bones basics of the Cool Flower concept. It really explains that. But in a nutshell, it doesn't really matter where you are. It's all about your frost dates. When is your first historic fall frost? And you plan to have transplants for those plants that prefer transplants in the ground 6 to 8 weeks before that time. And of course, that's after you verified that what you are starting and planting in the fall actually survives winter as a cool season hardy annual. And I'm telling you, friends, that course, Cool Flowers from Seed to Harvest, will leave no question unanswered. That's what this is all about. And I'm going to go through a lot of that tonight, the different resources and how they all come together to really make a complete picture. Stand by. So my husband's going to try to call me. Are you motioning to him to come in? Sorry, y'all. We are so in tune to our dog. We have a drive-through gate here on the farm, and nobody opens the gate until they verify that Tucker is not out running around on the farm, which is completely fenced, because he is a runner. He'd be out that gate in a heartbeat. Anyway, so that's the story on it. 6 to 8 weeks before your first historic frost for those things that are winter hardy in your zone. Hi, starting Celosia Sunday series and 200 count tray, having trouble germinating. Any tips? Purple seems to be more sporadic, using premix and a Coco Loco mix. All right, so if you say a 200 count tray, that must mean you're using plug trays. And we find that Celosia does 100% better in soil blocks. That's one of the flowers. We grow a ton of Celosias, probably like 30 or 35 different when you combine all the different types together. And in soil blocks, they really thrive. Not only do they have high germination, but they don't get root bound. And when they get root bound in a plug tray, for instance, they will actually be stunted. So they look happy, they look healthy, they just don't grow. And that is a classic Celosia issue. So Celosia is sown on the surface. It needs light and oxygen to germinate, well seeded onto the soil. And we use organic blocking mix. So, I mean, we just do it really different than what you're doing it. But surface sowing it, not keeping it wet all the time, letting it dry out. And that is really difficult to do in a plug tray. So good luck. And I just cut, our big crop of Sunday series this morning. I cut the green, the orange, and the yellow for the show on Friday. So if y'all haven't ever watched, we have a live shopping show on Friday in an app, a shopping app. And it's all about highlighting our harvest of the week. And I'll be showing our Sunday series. They were like 30 plus inches tall. They were pretty dadgum amazing. All right, do you prefer seed starting or direct sowing for cool flowers, or does it vary by flower type? We are in 7B. Thank you for doing all these lives. You're welcome. So it isn't really up to us. We sow we choose to start from seed the way that the seed prefers, meaning it's the easiest job to do. For instance, in that course I was talking about, there's 36 cool flowers. 11 of them we direct sow, and the other 25 are transplanted. And that's how they're segregated. There's a direct seeded class and there's a transplant class. So it's all about I am all about the quickest, easiest, least expensive way to do everything as a business person, right? And by just following the way that the seed really is the easiest to germinate is what it's all about for us. Do you water the trays on the heating mat the same as you water the seedlings under the light? What a good question, Colleen. So, yes, basically. I mean, everything gets watered every single morning. And the conditions, especially on a heat mat, on a seedling heat mat, that means, those are dry when you come in the morning. So the whole watering cycle, whether on a heat mat or under a grow light or even out here I'm standing on our carport that's half carport, half open porch, which is my hardening off area. Every morning when I go to water, all the trays should be dry. So I water in the morning. Never leave standing water in a tray, right? I water thoroughly. They go through the day, they're wet, they're getting drier, and as nighttime comes, they're almost dry. And then the lights go off, and overnight their soil is pretty dry. And that is when the roots get all that oxygen that they need. Plants that stay wet all the time, which is so difficult to manage, particularly in plug trays, the roots never get oxygen. And what happens? You have poor germination. The plants are just puny. They just don't thrive and grow because basically it's like holding you halfway underwater all the time. Think about never being able to get a good breath, right? That is kind of what it's like. Getting your conditions to be such that you are, as I just described, is worth all the trouble, because I don't have to think about that anymore. We just do it, right? I'm a home gardener and a batch of blocking mix lasts me a long time. Is there a particular way to store it? I believe I've heard you say it's a live medium. So if you're talking about the ready-made mix from us, it is live, but just storing it dry and in a place, it's probably best like in a garage or somewhere where there's not so much fluctuation. But yeah, you just never want to store it wet. So for instance, you can wet the entire 6-quart bag to make blocks, because it's easier to make blocks with the whole 6-quart bag, having a lot of blocking mix to work with. And then what you don't use, you just let it dry out. We literally store it in the tray that we make blocks in, let it dry out, and then we throw all of our soil blocking stuff in that tray, and that's how we would store it when it's not in use. Around here, we actually start seeds 11 months out of the year, so that's not very often, but when we store it away, that's how we do that. So that's a great question. Hi Lisa, how old are the seedlings when you start using fish emulsion, and how often do you use it? So I use the seaweed fish, not just straight fish emulsion. I use the Neptune's Harvest, which you can find on our website. And I put that in my watering can on Mondays. And so everybody gets watered with that except for the stuff that's on the heat mat, because that hasn't germinated yet. They don't need any food, right? So I usually fill the can with water the heat mat area, and then refill my watering can and put a dose. I think it's, sorry, y'all, my nose is itching. I think it's a tablespoon to a gallon. You'd think I would know it, but I do it on autopilot. And then I just add that to the watering can, and everybody that's in the grow room and everybody that's here on the porch gets watered with that. So they get a dose, and that happens every Monday. On Wednesdays, I add to the watering can the mosquito bits, which is BT, which I water with that because fungus gnats, which are a given whenever you have seed starting indoors, particularly continuous like we do, those fungus gnats lay their eggs in the moist soil blocks or plug trays or whatever. And so I water every Wednesday with that, and that BT eliminates any developing larvae in the soil, which is the way you really prevent that from becoming an out-of-control problem. All right, wait a minute. Try not to hit the wrong buttons here, y'all. Do you cover your seedlings on the heat mat with plastic? I do not. We use wide weave burlap. And you can also find that on our website if you need it. So when I learned about seed starting 30 years ago from Elliot Coleman, who was like the organic farmer gardener, is just such a brilliant guy. It's so simple, right? I mean, he really helped me to understand the whole system. He suggested that using plastic, anything, a dome, or some people use saran, there's nothing wrong with doing that, except that it's really easy to encourage disease, like dampening off and different kinds of things can grow really well underneath that saran. And you just really need to monitor that really closely. Well, here's the reality of me. I don't monitor anything closely, y'all. I go into my grow room in the morning and I water, and I don't even think about that room again until the next morning. I'm not in there checking on my stuff. And so my situation, just like his was, is that we just don't use plastic because that traps too much moisture and it has no way to escape. Using the wide weave burlap has bigger holes in it, and while it does retain moisture, it allows some air circulation, and we have found that that just works really well. So I know a lot of people that do use domes and plastic. You just have to really keep an eye on it, and if you start have dampening off issues, that's your problem. What is the difference between cold stratification with humidity reducing packets in the freezer and cold stratification in the fridge with a damp paper towel? Which method is best and why? Brittany, I wished I could answer your question, but I absolutely know nothing about any of that because I don't start any plants that actually require any kind of cold treatment and stratification. We do store Cool Seas and Hardy Annuals that we start in the freezer. That's just where we store them properly, and pull them out and plant them. So, but I don't start like biennials. I must have eaten something at lunch, y'all, that has really lit me up. So I don't have any experience with that. I will tell you that I have a friend that wrote a book. Her name is Miriam Goldberg. Her book's name is Taming Wildflowers, I believe. She's been a wildflower seed starting grower for 40 years. She's in Canada. You ought to look it up. That would be the place that you would find that information. Kim, how many seasons do you typically use netting? Do you save and reuse netting with several tears? Thank you for all you've taught us. You're welcome, Kim. I thank you. I know I see you around all the time. I believe you're either in my club or a student or both. I get them so confused now. All right, so typically any tears we try. I mean, it depends on where the tear is. If the tear on the floral support netting, which is plastic, y'all, is reusable, but if it gets torn along the edges, which means where a stake could potentially be, and that really helps to make it stay taut, then I trash it. But if it's got just one break, like in the middle somewhere, you could typically use that again. And I would say we could use it because when we take it off, we roll it up, mask and tape it together, and put it into our potting shed where it's out of UV rays are what break down all things plastic. All your trays, all your pots, everything, and netting, and silage tarps, and landscape fabric, all that stuff. The sun is what kills it. So we store it indoors. So I would say you could probably get 3 or 4 years, but it's all about removing it immediately when the crop is done, getting it so you're not ripping on it and all that kind of stuff. So good question. Succession planting, does that only apply to spring sowing? It seems like cool flowers succession sowed all stop at the same time anyway, so how would that work? So that's one of the things that I include in that bonus training that comes with Cool Flowers course. But in a nutshell, there are succession planting cool flowers could potentially be fall planting and very early spring planting for somebody like me that can plant almost all the cool flowers in the fall. I can plant them again. Then there's certain ones that we plant beyond that because they perform so well. And it's really a very simple thing. I really got into drawing that plan. You know, y'all give me, if y'all have the course already and have the bonus training, or if you get it, give me a little grace on the artist part of things. But it's like the 30,000 foot view of the beds, like in spring, what's warm, what's cool. It doesn't talk about the different flowers. That's like detailed stuff. We're talking big picture. And then in summer it shows, and then in fall it shows, and then in winter it shows. Because it really is very, very simple. We tend to complicate all this beyond. My book, The Cut Flower Handbook, also is a big one on helping people wrap their heads around succession planting. It is the root of all success as a gardener and as a flower farmer. And it took me a decade to figure that out, you know? All right. Do you pinch your Sosia? I'm harvesting the plume type now. It's beautiful, but I've never pinched them. So pinching always depends on, you know, is it a branching plant? Most Sosia plumes, the plumosas, and even the spicatas are all branching. And so I don't typically pinch all of the plants. My pinching rule is for branching annuals that I'm going to pinch, I usually pinch 50% of a crop. That way I get the best of both worlds. The unpinched blooms earlier, the pinched branches earlier. So I get like a marriage made in heaven, right? And there are so many varieties of Sosia. Should I be charging more for the specialty sunflowers, white lights, etc. than the orange? I would say no, probably. You know, it really, pricing is very specific to your area, you're not even just your region. It's like, I live in Hampton Roads, which is the area that I live in, and we're the second largest area in the state of Virginia, only second to Northern Virginia. So we're big. I mean, I've got like 7 or 8 military bases around me. Like, we're the first place to go if a war starts, y'all, right? And so we have a lot of partying. We have a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So we get top dollar for everything, you know? I mean, we're at the top versus somebody that lives in rural Kentucky, right? Totally different. But I never charged any different for a different color of sunflower. It was more about the grade, the size, the quality, and then what market. Are you wholesaling? Are you making bouquets? Are you at farmers markets? Or, you know, what are you doing? So pricing is a learning lesson in itself. I talk about that in my flower farming school online, the basics. We talk about pricing. That is one of the most perplexing things that face people, as well as we have a short course called Preparing to Sell to Florists by Ellen Frost, who is a florist. And she kind of is, nobody's going to tell you how much you should charge. It is so specific to you and your area and your quality and your markets. But they give you the equations, right, to figure that out. So hope that helps. When making new flower beds, how far down do you need to till the soil? So that could take an hour to answer that question. But I will say that in the Cut Flower Handbook, my newest book that just came out in February, it actually talks about the different types of beds and how to build them, like a raised bed, like my Joe beds that are here that are made out of, they've got wood frames around them, or to make mounded ones, and actually how we don't double dig, but we use a broad fork or a garden fork to actually loosen the soil that's level with the ground and then build a mounded bed on top. So I would recommend my book, The Cut Flower Handbook, if you want the down on dirty on building great beds that just, it's always about creating great drainage and getting as much organic matter, not as much, enough in there so it retains moisture like a sponge, but it's not drippy, because that's the most important step. People just usually push right past it. So thank you for asking the question. But building and setting up your gardens make or break you. There's no question about that. They are floret zinnias. I have no idea what Aaron's zinnias date. I mean, I'm not sure what they came from, so I would, but I think you're pushing it. Even if it's 60 days, which I don't think it is, August, September, I just don't think you'll be able to make that. But you never know till you try, right? How do I harvest pumpkin on a stick? The thorns are horrendous. Oh, yes. So pumpkin on a stick is an ornamental that looks like pumpkins, and they're along the stem. So because the pumpkins are along the stem, you can't use a classic stem stripper like you would on a rose stem, right? They do have some pretty vicious thorns. We just ordered, because I'm, telling people to grow them, we use a Florist knife, and it's a slow, tedious process, but one person should do it so they can get good at it. I actually texted Dave Dowling probably 3 weeks ago and said, hey, because he was out at the big cut flower trials in Chicago or California or somewhere. And I said, hey, how are people getting rid of the thorns on pumpkin on a stick? His response was, slowly and carefully, was what he answered me. So we've ordered some Florist knives, which is a great little knife that a lot of florists use that instead of shears. And that's where I think it would be. And so, again, that would just be rolled up in how much you charge for that crop, right? When I see them out in the stores, I always look, and the thorns are gone. There's some poor person standing somewhere probably making $0.25 an hour in some other country taking the thorns off a pumpkin on a stick, literally. All right, one last question. What are 3 flowers you would plant right now? I really cannot answer that because that is different for everybody. We are at the end. We have probably 6 trays of Sosia sitting here that's, like 4 or 5 weeks old, that's getting ready to be planted. We are planting tons of grass transplants, which are, already 3 or 4 weeks old. We have kale, ornamental cut flower kale, that's on its way out to the garden to be planted. Of course, we have sunflowers every week up until the end of September. The Pro Cut series, which is 60 days from seed to bloom. And we're starting cool flowers, this is July. We start those the early September. So it's all about when is your frost date and how many days from seed to bloom. And this is something, friends, I just can't tell you. Once you figure this out for yourself, for your garden, you just will be in the know. The Cut Flower Handbook has areas in the book where you can actually write your dates and that kind of stuff. So you'll never have to figure it out again. So that's the moral to that story, right? All right, friends. So remember to join me tonight. Tonight we're talking about don't miss the boat on cool flowers. And I'll be talking about the cool flower course and the special bonus. But I'm going to be talking about why would you want to grow cool flowers? How essential it is to setting your flower farming business up for success early in the season. When flowers are in demand, it's the easiest season to sell flowers. And when you follow the the cool flower concept, meaning starting on time and then giving them what they want, they're the easiest group of flowers I have ever grown, So meet me tonight right here on IG at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. At 7 p.m., I will actually be on YouTube and Facebook. Same subject, just I'll do it over again. And you know me, I talk about different stuff every single time. So catch me on both places if you want to. All right, friends, until we meet again. Ciao.